Good day, ma'am. I am Magnolia Hildo and I'm going to report the glass and firearm. So I'm going to start. Glass. It can be an important evidence in robberies and hit-and-run cases. It may be found as a trace evidence in clothing and shoes. Glass is usually examined to determine if both the evidence sample and the non-standard has the same physical properties and trace elements as impurities. Additionally, examinations can be made to determine from which side force was applied. Glass broken by fire shows a different pattern because the breaking is induced by differences in expansion of glass. Physical match of glass from the crime scene to glass found in suspect's position is good possibility. Okay? Robbers and hit and run. So, usa kay matabang sa glass sa robberies cases. First, linking the suspects to the crime scene. So, broken glass found at the scene of the robbery can provide important clues to investigators. It can help establish that the suspect was present at the scene, as the glass may contain their fingerprints, DNA, or other trace evidence. This can be particularly valuable if there are no eyewitnesses. Second, determining entry and exit points. Okay? Glass evidence can help investigators understand how the perpetrator gained access to the premises and how they left the scene. Third, identifying the type of weapon used kung unsa ilang gigamit atong pagbuak nila sa glass. So, sa ubang cases, the glass may reveal the type of tool or weapon used to break in, such as crowbar or a glass cutter. When you say glass cutter, diba makita nato na dili siya crack. Murag ka nang gi-circulan lang, pormado kaayo, dili katag siya pagka open ang glass. Nya, na uban linya pa box, diba ma? Pansin nato ba sa glass cutter ang gamiton? This information can provide insight into the planning and execution of the crime. Okay? Lastly, establishing the timing of the robbery. The condition of broken glass can offer clues about when the robbery occurred. For example, fresh shards of glass may indicate a recent break-in, while weathered glass may suggest an older crime. This can help investigators establish a timeline for the incident. Okay, lastly, tracing the origin of stolen items. Sa ubang kaso, ang glass evidence can help trace the path taken by stolen items. For example, a thief breaks a window to enter a jewelry store and steals valuable items. Finding glass shards on the stolen jewelry can connect the stolen property to the crime scene. It's important to note that the significance of glass evidence depends on the specific circumstances of each case and the quality of the forensic analysis. While glass evidence can be valuable, it is typically just one piece of the puzzle in the investigation, and its importance should be considered in conjunction with other evidence and testimony. In hit and run cases naman, naatay 5 ka mga possible na makuha sa investigation, di ba? Hit and run cases, vehicle identification. One of the primary uses of glass evidence in hit and run cases is to identify the vehicle involved in the accident. When a vehicle collides with another object, it often leaves behind fragments of glass from its headlights. Kaya mga buak sa suga, mabilin sa kalsada, mabilin sa sanina sa sa iyong nabanggaan if tao man. Kung sasakyanan man, kung sa kuan man sa kalsada, matrace siya. It headlights, tail lights, windows, or mirrors. These glass fragments can be used to determine the make and model of the vehicle kung unsang klase siya nasakinan. Ma-identify siya into glass, which is crucial for narrowing down potential suspects. Second, matching glass fragments. Forensic experts can compare the glass fragments found at the accident scene with glass samples from suspect vehicles. By matching the glass fragments to a specific vehicle, investigators can establish a direct link between the vehicle and the hit-and-run incident. Establishing vehicle movements. The location and distribution of glass fragments can provide insight into the sequence of events during the hit and run. For example, the trajectory and dispersion of glass fragments can help reconstruct how the collision occurred in the direction in which the suspect vehicle fled the scene. Determining the impact speed, dira na to mailhan kung buak kaayo ang headlight or ang window sa isa ka sakyanan, sa isa ka vehicle na naka-hit and run. Kung buak kayo, dira to makita na kusog yung dagan. Pero kung hinay ganin na siya, hinay ang dagan sa vehicle na naka-hit and run, dili kayo na siya katag or dili kayo buak ang iyahang possible mirror na mabuak. So, the condition of the glass fragments and the damage patterns on the victim's vehicle can provide information about the speed and force of the impact. Yeah, like what I said earlier. This data can be valuable in assessing the severity of the collision and in some cases inferring the speed at which the suspect vehicle was traveling. Last, corroborating witness testimonies. Glass evidence can support the accounts of witnesses who may have heard or seen the collision. If a witness reports hearing glass shattering, finding glass fragments at the scene can confirm their testimony and strengthen the case against the hit-and-run driver. Glass evidence is valuable for forensic tool in hit-and-run cases as it can aid in identifying the suspect vehicle, reconstructing the events of the collision, and assisting in the investigation and prosecution of the hit-and-run driver. It can significantly contribute to resolving these often complex and emotionally charged cases. Okay, next. So, here we are in glass evidence including and shoes. So, let's start in including. Glass evidence on clothing can be important in various types of investigations, such as criminal cases, accidents, or incidents involving glass breakage. So, first, linking a suspect to a crime scene. If an individual has glass fragments on their clothing that match the glass found at the crime scene, it can be strong evidence of their presence at that location. This can help establish a connection between the suspect and the crime. Second, placing a person at the scene of an accident. In hit-and-run accidents or accidents involving broken glass evidence on a person's clothing can indicate their involvement in the incident. This evidence can help investigators determine who was present at the scene and possibly identify the responsible party. Third, establishing victim's location. In some cases, glass evidence on a victim's clothing can help establish their position at the time of an incident. This can be particularly useful in accidents or crimes where the victim's location is in question. Kung asa, diba, pag once investigators mangutan ta, asa di ka nakapesto, ma'am, yan na hit and run maka, na. O, dira na to, makita. Establishing liability. In civil cases involving accidents or injuries, glass evidence on clothing can be used to establish liability. For example, if a pedestrian struck by a vehicle and has glass fragments from the vehicle's windshield on their clothing, it can provide evidence of the driver's negligence. So, glass evidence including can be valuable in investigations and legal proceeding by helping to establish connections between individuals and specific incidents, reconstructing events or corroborating witness testimonies, and providing crucial information for forensic analysis. It can play a significant role in both criminal and civil cases. So, let's proceed in glass in shoes. So, short lang ni siya, no? Okay, glass evidence in shoes is specifically glass fragments and shards found on the soles or in the treads of shoes can be important in various investigative scenarios. Linking a suspect to a crime scene. If a glass fragments from a crime scene such as burglary or vandalism are found on the soles of a suspect's shoes, it can strongly indicate that the individual was present at the scene. Nagpasabot na siya sa scene. This evidence can help establish a direct link between the suspect and the crime. Glass evidence in shoes can play a crucial role in investigations and legal proceedings by connecting individuals to specific incidents, reconstructing events, corroborating witness testimonies, and providing valuable information for forensic analysis. It can be particularly significant in cases involving crimes, accidents, or incidents where glass is broken or shattered. So next, glass broken by fire shows a different pattern because the breaking is induced by differences in expansion of glass. So let's talk about glass in fire. So, this statement, glass broken by fire, shows a different pattern because the breaking is induced by differences and expansion of glass. It refers to a specific phenomenon known as thermal stress or thermal breakage of glass. This phenomenon occurs when glass is exposed to significant temperature variations, typically due to fire extreme heat. It results from the differential expansion and contraction of glass material as it's heated or cooled. So, usually na mga cases ani is kanang gituyo na building ug sunog. So, fire investigations in cases where fires are suspected to be arson or where the cause of a fire needs to be determined. Investigators may examine the patterns of glass breakage as one of evidence. The presence of thermal stress-related crack patterns in glass can indicate that the glass was exposed to extreme heat or fire, potentially suggesting that the fire was intentionally set. Building a comprehensive investigation. Glass evidence, along with other physical evidence and witness statements, can contribute to building a comprehensive investigation in cases involving fires or suspected arson. It helps investigators piece together the events leading up to the fire and determine whether foul play was involved. The observation of the thermal stress-related patterns in glass can be a valuable tool in fire investigations, helping investigators understand the dynamics of a fire and identify its origin and other evidence related to the cause of the fire, which be crucial in determining whether a crime was committed. So, next. Physical match of glass from the crime scene to glass found in suspect's position in possibility. The physical match of glass from a crime scene to glass found in suspect's position can be highly compelling and important piece of evidence in criminal investigations for several reasons. Establishing presence of the crime scene. A direct physical match between glass fragments found at the crime scene and glass in a suspect's position can strongly indicate that the suspect's presence at the scene that the presence of suspects is in the crime scene. This evidence can help the suspect at the location where the crime occurred, potentially tying them to the criminal activity. A physical match of glass provides a tangible connection between the suspect and the crime. It suggests that the glass in the suspect's position originated from the crime scene, implying their involvement in the incident. Supporting prosecution's case. The physical match of glass serves as strong physical evidence that can be presented in court. It can help the prosecution build a compelling case against the suspect, demonstrating the direct connection to the crime scene, enhancing the strength of the case. Physical evidence such as a glass match can significantly strengthen the prosecution's case when presented alongside other forms of evidence, such as eyewitness testimony, DNA evidence, or security camera footage, which is the one of the powerful evidence jud ang the security camera footage like CCTV, video recording, manasab jud ang mga strong kaayo ng mga evidence. It's crucial to note that the strength of this evidence depends on the quality of the match and the circumstances of the case. Forensic experts must perform careful analysis and establish a clear chain of custody for the glass evidence to ensure its reliability and admissibility in court. Additionally, the presence of matching glass alone may not always be sufficient to secure a conviction. It should be considered within the broader context of the investigation. So, here we are in collection of glass. Okay. When we collecting glass in a crime scene, so dapat nakabutan jud siya sa dapat each glass makolekta kay there be possible na jud na yung mga physical match. In hit-and-run cases, collect all broken glasses to ensure the possibility of a physical match should fragments be found on suspects' vehicles. Yes. Next, package them individually in glass vials or envelopes. Muna sila ang mga sudlanan na pwede nimo gamiton para ibutang ang mga broken glass. Vials, kana siya kaniya. Okay. Okay. Here we are in firearms. So, firearm, bullet, shotgun shell, shotgun pellet, and ward. Explosive residue and gunpowder of pattern can provide vital evidence and specific answers to possible questions in the case. So, collection of firearms. Firearm must be handled carefully, not only as a safety measure, but to avoid disturbing any evidence they may provide. Sabta naman na. They must be properly marked for later identification. Never insert anything in the barrel as it may damage the identifying characteristic and dislodge material which may be inside the barrel. So, let me explain this one. Inserting anything into the barrel of a firearm, especially without the proper training and equipment, is highly discouraged and can have several negative consequences. Sa jud ang main na mahitabo jud. So, contamination of evidence. Inserting objects into barrel without proper techniques and equipment can dislodge material that may be inside, contaminating potential forensic evidence. This can make it more challenging to gather accurate evidence related to the firearm's history or its involved in a crime. If there is a need to examine the interior of a firearm barrel for forensic purposes, it should only be done by trained and qualified experts using specialized tools and techniques. These experts are skilled in firearm examination and can be ensured that any examinations are conducted without compromising evidence of the firearm safety. Next, pick up the weapon by the trigger guard or trigger grip so as not to disturb any fingerprints. So as you can see, makita na to dira mga parts sa puzzle. Diri ang ginaingon diri is ang trigger grip and the trigger guard. So, ngano kana man sila ang kanang pwede gunhitan during sa pagkuha ng weapon, pagkuha ng armas, because mo na ang mga ensuring walay physical evidence, back rape. Pero pwede po siya gunitan sa may front sight or sa barrel. Next. So, unsa ang mga gamiton sa pagpunit sa mga pusil or sa mga weapon na gigamit sa pagpatay sa isa ka tao? Using tweezer. Tweezer is the most safetiest. Pero kung safetiest jud na siya kay ngano, dili jud ma-disturb ang mga possible na physical evidence na naadra sa weapon. Second, using the gloves. Gloves. Why? Kay if kamuton nimo na without using a gloves, possible na imuhang fingerprint ang makita sa mga investigators dito. Possible na sa imuha pa jud malink na ikaw ang nagpatay. So second, unload but do not wipe or clean the weapon. Unloading a firearm without wiping or disturbing evidence is a critical step in the handling of firearms in a forensic or investigative context. Here's how to do it carefully and without compromising evidence. So, before man jud ta magpasa sa laboratory o kanang firearm, kailangan jud nato i-unload kay possible na makadisgrasya. Pero dapat careful, dili dapat siya matrapuhan or mahinluan, no. So, asa ang mga steps? Wear appropriate personal protective equipment. If you are handling a firearm in a forensic or investigative setting, wear gloves and other protective gear to prevent contaminating or disturbing any potential evidence of the firearm. Document the firearm. Before touching the firearm, truly document its condition. Take detailed photographs and notes of the firearm's appearance, including any visible markings, serial numbers, and the location of potential evidence, or kanang mga blood spatter or fingerprints. Remember that firearm handling, especially in a forensic context, requires precision and meticulous attention to detail to avoid contaminating or altering evidence. When in doubt, consult with experts or forensic professionals to ensure the proper handling and preservation of evidence associated with firearms. So next. Okay, so here we are. When unloading, carefully record the location of fired, unfired, and misfired cartridge. So here is the difference of unfired and fired and the misfired. So, as we see, ang unfired is very sinaw jud kaayo, tapos makita to ang fired kanang gipabuto na is gasgas na, tapos ang misfired cartridges is kanang wala na dayon siya pagkabuto. So let me explain this one. The statement, when unloading, carefully record the location of fired, unfired, and misfired cartridges, refers to a procedure followed during the unloading and examination of a firearm, especially in a forensic or investigative context. It emphasizes the importance of documenting and distinguish between different types of cartridge, bullets or rounds found or around the firearm. So fired cartridges, these are cartridge that have been successfully discharged from the firearm. In a forensic examination, fired cartridge can provide important evidence. Yes, for example, the examination of fired cartridge can help determine the type of firearm used, the caliber of the ammunition, and may yield valuable information about the firearm's condition and history. Unfired cartridge are live rounds that have not been discharged. They may be present in firearms magazine cylinder or chamber. In a forensic context, the presence of unfired cartridge can indicate that the firearm was loaded but not necessarily fired, providing insights into the intent or actions of the firearm user. Misfired cartridge. A misfired cartridge is one of the failed to fire when the trigger was pulled. The primer maybe have been struck, but the cartridge did not ignite, preventing the firearm from discharging. In forensic examinations, misfired cartridge can provide information about the condition of the ammunition, potential issues with the firearm, or the actions of the user. Determining the cause of the misfire can be crucial in understanding the circumstances of an incident. Record the location of these different types of cartridge during unloading and examination is important for several reasons. Evidence preservation. Proper documentation ensures that the condition and location of cartridge are preserved accurately. This documentation can be used in court as evidence and can help establish the sequence of events in a shooting incident. Investigative value. Knowing where fired, unfired, and misfired cartridge are located can provide valuable insight into the use and operation of the firearm, potentially aiding investigators in reconstructing the events of a shooting incident. The careful recording of the location and status of cartridge during unloading and examination of a firearm is a fundamental practice in forensic firearm analysis and investigative procedures. It helps maintain the integrity of evidence, contributes to the understanding of firearm-related incidents, and supports the legal process and necessary. So next, muna siya no, muna siya mga difference fired and misfired na ako nang na-explain. So, 7. Record serial number of record the serial numbers description of firearms. So, recording the serial number and description of firearms in investigations is a fundamental practice that aids in firearm identification, ownership, tracking, chain of custody maintenance, evidence preservation, and the successful resolution of criminal cases. It is essential for law enforcement agencies and investigators to adhere to proper protocols when handling firearms as evidence to ensure the integrity of the legal process and protects public safety. 8. Okay. Firearm with no serial number should be marked with initials on the receiver on underside of the barrel. Okay. Never use X or other non-individual type of marking. So, this means the use of generic or non-individual markings like X will not provide meaningful or traceable information. Instead, investigators should employ methods that uniquely identify the items in question for firearms. This typically includes serial numbers which unique to each firearm and serve as a primary means of identification. So, dapat yun as investigators kabulutan na lahi yun ang serial numbers sa armas. Using non-individual or ambiguous markings can lead to confusion, misidentification, or a lack of accountability, which is why it is crucial to rely on established and specific identification methods when dealing with evidence, especially firearms. 10. Do not mark the weapon on any easily removable parts such as the stock or grip. 11. Use discretion so as not to figure the weapon. When you say discretion, diba? On sariling panghuna-huna kung saan na to pagpunit ng weapon para dili ma-disfigure na siya. So, don'ts in the collection of firearms. Never submit a loaded gun to the laboratory unless it is delivered in person. Unfired cartridge may be left in the magazine of a weapon provided a magazine is removed from the gun. A firearm with the cartridge in the chamber should never be shipped by any method, even if the weapon is not cocked or on safety. Never clean the bore, chamber, or cylinder before submitting a firearm. And never attempt to fire the gun before it is examined in the laboratory. So, understandable naman jud kay ninyo, no? Never pick up a weapon by placing a pencil or other object in the end of the barrel. Record serial number, make a model and caliber of the weapon, and mark it in some inconspicuous manner that does not distract from its value before sending it to the laboratory. Marking firearms is important since duplicate serial numbers are sometimes found on different guns of the same make and general type. Do not confuse model numbers or patent numbers with serial number. So, sabot naman tana. Place of weapons in strong cardboard or wooden box will pack to prevent shifting of guns and transit. So, ano siya na? So, rifles or shotguns should not be taken apart. Yes. If blood or any other material which may pertain to an investigation is present on the gun, place a clean paper around the gun and seal it with tape to prevent movement of the gun and loss of the sample during shipment. So, kung if possible man na ang armas na ato ang ikolekta as evidence is kailangan ibalot siya og papel or tapos isulod og box para dili ma-contaminate or matanggal tong blood na nakadated to for DNA test, blood test kung kinsa may tag-iya tong dugo ato. Never contaminate the gun for the examination of latent fingerprints. When you say latent fingerprints, kanang mga kanang dili makita na kailangan pa siya butangan og chemical. So, dapat careful jud ta sa pagpuwet sa weapon para dili sayang ang kanang hago nato ba na magkuha na niya wala dai physical evidence. So, dapat jud para makuha nato ang justice atong tao nagipatay gamit tong weapon. Dapat yun careful ta sa pagpuwet sa mga evidence o i-analyze na tugtaron. So, that's all. Thank you.